Mr. the greatest Michael Labersi that I know. How you doing today, man?
Hey, great, Dr. Jake Clendenning. I'm the only Michael Laversi you know.
You are the Michael Labersi. So, all right, man, we're gonna talk about what should be everybody's like favorite thing to talk about, everything that they're looking forward to, and then dig into it a little bit deeper. Vacations. Like it is summertime, it is beautiful out, it is do the stuff, do the things. It is vacation season when it comes right down to that. So there's some different step places I want to go with this, but like we want to talk about the mindset of how do you set yourself up for it so you can be gone? And I mean, this is for business owners. Like we want to talk to the entrepreneurs and the business owners that like you should not be on vacation attached to your life. Like when
Yeah.
I say vacation, I mean gone. Like gone, gone, off planet, gone. I want to talk about how we create that.
Okay. I'll talk about some subsets as well on that. Basically, mini vacations, right? But the idea of being gone, that actually takes triple the amount of work before you go away. 9 months before you go away. I'm gonna tell you
Mhm.
why. Right? I'm gonna dive in and you'll kick off with this one because you do this a little bit better than I do. If you don't have an assistant, you don't have a team, and you don't have people, and it's just you literally have to think for every week you take away, you have to give yourself a 120 to 200-day lead time, understand, reverse engineer everything you're going to do, and you're going to say, wow, because I am gone. I'm off the planet. I'm not taking certain things. I'm going to schedule things out. You'll be so confidently organized that nothing can go wrong, that you will have everything locked down and people will understand, boom, I know that Jake is in Thailand, eating frogs, and that's what he's doing this week, and I know where he is, I know what he's doing, and I'm okay with it. So, or you have to have a team, you have to have people, but you still have to empower those people with decision making, right? And we've talked about being on mission. We've talked about empowering the brand, right? Your brand, and being on mission, and everybody around you's on mission, so they don't need you, right? So why don't you touch on that pre-planning? I just laid out a bit. People are like, I have to think 9 months ahead of time. If you're a solopreneur, sure, yeah. And if you're a disorganized entrepreneur, yeah, you do. You got to think ahead. Otherwise, you're in the hopper, or you're working on your trip. So
Yep. And that, so, all right, I'm going to give you the easiest way. And this is an cool tactic. This is, God, I'm dating myself and I'm feeling really bad about it right now. I'm saying old school tactic, and I'm talking like early 2000s when they started rolling this out, which is like I was well into my entrepreneurial journey by then. But so old school tactic, how to operate your calendar. So the best way to make sure you can start pre-planning for this, there's a way to operate your calendar. In October, everybody hear that? October. So let's assume this is the year you're listening to this in the year 2025. October 2025, you are going to purchase yourself a paper 26 calendar. Print it off. Don't care. Buy a cat calendar. It can be full of kittens. It can be whatever. I don't care. Doesn't matter. You need a physical calendar to look at. This is the exercise. You can't do it on your phone. It doesn't work because you get distracted. You need a physical calendar. Once upon a time in real estate, they used to give us, you remember those desktop calendars that were like 2 foot by 18 inches tall, this giant, and you never wrote any dates on it. There was just a giant notepad. Get one of those too. So what you have to do, there's a strategy for doing this. It's how we calendar. By and large, our brain is bang jacked into thinking it needs to calendar work first. That's a lie. You've got to calendar in the right direction. First thing you got to, it should be faith and family, then business. That's just how that should go. So the first thing you got to calendar is what's going on vacation wise. You plug the calendar like wherever it is. Hey, I'm going to leave and go somewhere second week of June. I'm going to be gone in September. I'm going to be gone. And you write it down. You physically go through the task of writing down every vacation you know about. And then you go back and you write down every family thing that you know about, every responsibility. Work will find its way in there. but you got to write those down. The reason you do this in October, unless you're on a fiscal year, in which you should have been doing it in January, so you can roll over now, but you're weird if you're on fiscal years. Like, this is just the easy one. You do it in October so that you're running the play come January 1st, not starting to think about what I'm going to do with my year. So if in October I wrote down I'm going to be gone the second week of June, I've already planted the seed in my brain. I've created the neural pathway to start planning for it. As a disorganized entrepreneur, which is like, we're going to coin that phrase and somehow trademark it for Mike. Like, as a disorganized entrepreneur, if I know that I got to do that, I've set it up. I've started down that path. I've agreed. I've written it down. I've made the social contract and said I'm going to start doing it. So that's where Mike's talking about 120 days out. You're starting to plan for it. You've got to plan for those. Now, a lot of people are like, well, I like to live my life a lot more seat of the pants and hair on fire. And, yeah, that's a lie. You can tell everybody you want, that's how you like to do it. No, it's because you're too damn lazy to do it the right way. That's the only reason. Go ahead, call me out. I dare you. Jump on there, jump in YouTube and tell me about it. But the reality is, if you want to be gone, Mike's right. You got to plan for it. Like, we have this conversation. Mike knows, and I know Mike as well. We've talked about 6 months ago, where are you going to be this date? Where are you going to be on this date? I'm not going to be there. This is when I'm going to disappear. He knows that the last, basically, Memorial Day weekend through the first full week of June, I am always gone every single year. I could calendar that for the next 20 years, that those are the 2 weeks I am gone. September, you can't hardly find me. And Mike knows that. Like, so this is where you share it with your partners too. You've got to, so in the pre-planning, you've got to make everybody aware. That's the short story of the 5-minute dissertation. Is one, you've got to be aware of it, and you got to tell everybody else about it, whether they're partners, they're vendors. You've got to create the expectation. I'm going to be gone, and here's the reason I say that. So if I'm gonna test Mike today. All right, Mike. If I were to tell you, hey, I'm going to be out of town this weekend, but I'll have my cell phone with me. So if you need to reach out, that's okay. What did I just tell you?
I'm doing the same thing in another location.
Doing the same thing in another location. I just created an expectation with Mike that it's totally okay for me to be wherever I am, but I'm still doing business. Versus if I say, all right, Mike, I am, and I use this word and everybody knows it. Mike, I am off planet this weekend. I'm leaving at noon on Friday. I'm not checking messages. I'm not checking emails. I'll check back in with you on Monday. What do I need to make sure I get you before Friday? What did I just tell you?
Yep. Capped.
That's exactly it. So you've got to set the expectation, and it doesn't. I'm burning through this like I usually do. When you set the expectation wrong, and somebody believes that they can take advantage of your time, you just created a weirdness in that relationship, because now you're pissed that they're calling you. I can't believe they're calling me on my vacation, but you gave them permission to do it. But if you don't give them permission to do it, here's the other trick in this one. Then Mike's going to jump back into what Mike's doing. Don't answer the damn phone if you say you're not going to answer the phone. If you say you're not going to do it, don't do it. Because if you do, you just gave them permission to re-engage. You just told them it's not okay. So be careful with what you do.
That's 100% correct. And I realize there's some exceptions to the rule. Big deals going down, things are time sensitive, somebody's dropping the ball, okay, fine. But there's always going to be that. There's always going to be a big deal. There's always going to be a ball drop. And what people don't realize about setting space, it also empowers, like in a partnership like ours, it also empowers me to make unilateral decisions that I think will be for the good of the team. I don't punt, right? I mean, if it's something big, I will, but I don't punt. I'll set a meeting up, or I'll approve something, or I'll say, okay, this is great. And then when we get back into play, cool. Not a financial thing, but more of a, hey, does this website look good? Or hey, does this flyer look all right? Or have you spoken to so-and-so? That kind of thing. And I find it to be very effective, because the second you disengage, the show still goes on. You empower your partner to do things. You hire your team to do things. Decisions are made, even if they're not the greatest ones. That's the sub lesson. That's the plus one. Okay, fine. The best decisions weren't made, but decisions were made. You're not starting from scratch. No horrible decisions are ever made if they're not financial. So, 7 days off is not going to be a big deal. 3 days off is not going to be a big deal. And setting that boundary is actually a good thing, right? Because that way, when you do reconnect, it's positive and meaningful. So it just takes a while for momentum to build off of a break. But speaking of momentum, right? Let's jump in, and we've been talking about this a lot. We've been talking about the guild, and we've been talking about how people can learn these strategies directly from us. A space where Jake and I are not just here on your screen, we're actually interacting with you in the comfort of your own home. And we set it up so that you and a community of people can plug in together and work directly with Jake and myself and go through this process, right? And we answer questions live. The whole point of us being there is to share. Imagine you could get Jake and I for a fraction of the price. It's unheard of. However, with our community, the goal is to shortcut, right? Give people these hacks, give people these tools and tricks. And right below me is a UPC code, or a not UPC code, but
QR code.
QR that you can scan and go to www.total-disruption.com. That's www.total-disruption.com. Click on the guild, explore, check it out. Now, Jake, what do you have to say about all this vacation in the guild?
I like the idea of a barcode. That actually, I like that triggered a whole bunch of things. I'm like, that can be kind of fun to do it because they've got that scanner too. Yeah, the guild is all about. It's not one-on-one coaching. It is community coaching. You're going to learn from us, and you're going to learn from all the people that are doing it. And this is a great way to create yourself a fractional board of directors. This is a great way to do that in order to grow your business and build your business. And this is where a lot of these guys are freaking out right here around talking about vacations. They're like, well, but it's just me. It's all me all the time. How could I possibly take a vacation, and how could I possibly disappear? You choose to. You choose to. Do you have a job or do you have a business? This is the test of how you know. If you have a job and nobody else can do it and you can't leave it, you have a job. A business operates without you. I will say that again. A business operates without you. That's how you know it's successful. If your goal is to build a successful business, your goal should be to leave and let the business do it. Because reality is sometimes the business will do better without you there. That happens. The business will actually flourish without you there because sometimes you're the bottleneck. So sometimes a vacation and a break from that business might be the best thing the business ever needed. Could be the thing. So so here's the other thing where I want to talk about vacations a little bit. A very conventional methodology has occurred in society. And that is basically you get a job and you work 40 hours a week and you get holidays off and a couple of extra Mondays and you get 2 weeks of paid vacation per year. All right, that's a super conventional methodology that's been created. That said, that's broken. That is seriously broken because by the time you burn 50 weeks to get to your 2 weeks off, you are so burned out, you are so exhausted, you're so toast that your vacation is exhausting. You're just trying to recover, and then you get back, and then the last 3 days you're so worried about coming back to your job or back to your thing. Like Mike said earlier, the mini vacations. I think these are way more crucial than the big trips. I really do. And I take big trips, don't get me wrong. But I think I'm going to take Friday afternoon and disappear like every other week. Or I'm going to take a 3-day weekend every other week. And make a point of those mini vacations, those mini resets. I think those are critically important for our spiritual, our physical, our mental, all of our health and the health of our business, because sometimes we can call a vacation a retreat. Like we can disappear and go, okay, I'm going to go put my butt in the sand and I'm just going to think. Like I'm just going to think about, I'm going to sit in the problem. I'm not going to solution. I'm just, you can use it for that too, if you want to change the perspective versus sitting in that exact space all the time doing it. So that's where I think those are super, super important. And I know Mike and I do that a lot. Like that's a thing that we do quite frequently. Mike gets to do it because he's a baseball dad. My God, I've seen baseball dads before. Like I want to say those are vacations, but you're either on at work or you're on at baseball as a baseball dad. So like for you, you're not ever, I don't know, in the time that I've known you, and I want to, like, I'm asking the question, is there ever a time that you are just alone with you and disengaged and only you? Is that time like, is that a planned time, or is it just you find yourself alone at some point and you're like, what happened? Like, I
Uh,
actually kind of generally want to know that.
Twice a week, I go for a big drive, and some days during that drive, I don't. At some part of that drive, I don't speak to anybody, anything. So there's, we'll say, 3 hours there, and then later in the evening, it does eat into my sleep a little bit, but that decompression exists, and it's. I've always liked the later in the evening decompression times. I've never been an early morning sit outside, have a cup of coffee, or I've always liked to just get up and go. I've always find that if I start my day slow, I don't get revved. This is me. I don't get revved until later in the day. So I gotta. I'm like match, flint, spark, go. So I try to put it at the back of the day, and then try to have some sort of workout in the middle of the day. But that's not by myself. So probably about 4 hours a week, 4 to 6 hours a week.
All right.
I'm by myself for now, and it's spring, so it's obviously travel season, and the kids need to be schlepped places. But you find how to start creating these pockets, and that's why vacation is so important to me, because when I have to shut it all down, I don't even know what to do with myself. Like if there's a rain out on a weekend, there's honestly no alternative plans, because all of a sudden you have from 11 a.m. till 9 or 10 o'clock that would have been consumed with circling around the area and doing something. Now all of a sudden that's free time. You can't plan for that because it's supposed to be something. So when you have scheduled vacation time, that's why that's so powerful. And a lot of people are in this, a lot of single parents, a lot of people with multiple children, a lot of people with ailing parents, a lot of people with pets. There's just always running around, coming from here, doing this, making sure this is okay before I do that. The dog, the cat, the fish, making sure the kid is where they have to be. Go check on mom and dad who are aging. Go over here and help out a sick loved one. So that is why this idea and this exercise is not just about vacation, right? We titled it as vacation, but it's about what happens when things have to stop a little bit, right? How to keep momentum going, how to be able to back away without it being the end of the world. I think a few cool things too, right? When you were saying get a calendar and all that, I'm going to wrap a strategy back. Communication. Communicating. I tell everybody, any one of my one-on-one clients, I tell everybody, look, it's spring. Getting a hold of me is going to be great if we're scheduled. My availability due to proximity and location, things changes a little bit in the spring. Not so much in the fall, but mostly in the spring. Midsummer, late summer, I'm golden. I know exactly where I'm going to be. But from January till June, especially March, April, May, June, that is the tough months for me, right? So when I also use that on a macro level, back to your point, I say, okay, I know I'm busy these times. I do a little bit more recovery in the off seasons, and look, I'm at the tail end of not one of my kids is at the tail end of youth baseball, so we'll see as I lighten up a little bit. I don't know where he's going to continue to play on, but we'll see what happens. So my advice to for people out there for this recovery, right? Follow what we're saying. Look at it from this perspective. You've got a plan to chill because you don't realize how much of a toll it takes on your body, your mind. You don't even realize when you have to work through burnout and you're on autopilot, how terrible that is. It happens to us all, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to work through burnout. You have to push yourself. Like when you're trying to get in shape or stay in shape, you have to learn the difference between burnout and self-sabotage. How do you keep going, right? It's interesting. If you follow this guy, he's a little bit controversial, but not anymore. His name's Trevor Bauer. He's a pitcher. He had all these accusations brought against him. Meanwhile, everybody who brought an accusation against him, they have their own legal battles. There's been all this proof that allegedly all these allegations were not correct. However, what Trevor Bauer does now is he walks you through his process when he's pitching. And at one point, he talks about how sick he is, how his body feels terrible, how he's feeling not so hot, altitude's bothering him, sea levels bothering him. Does an awesome job of articulating how to physically work through when you're not optimal. He's even mic'd up on the mound. It's crazy. I highly encourage people to watch that from this perspective, whether you agree with what happened to Trevor Bauer or not. He's out there doing things, right? And the proof's out there. And the number one example is somebody who's mic'd up, who does something physical for a living at a high level, right? That's getting paid a lot of money and seems to go, wow, I don't really have this thing all figured out. I'm not doing this right. I'm not doing that right. It's an amazing, that microcosm. It's amazing. I highly recommend checking his information out there from this perspective. Any other point of view about Trevor Bauer? No idea. But that perspective, it's key. So as we're rounding it out, Jake, let's go a little bit deeper and let's talk about some additional systems and how to use assistance and the empowering process because we've got a few minutes left. So let's go into it a little bit. How do you do it? How do you have our executive director, Krissa, right? She's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
She's the behind the scenes doing a lot of things. How do you go about training her? How do you do that?
Okay, so that and I agree with you. I'm trying to think of how to answer how do I go about training her, because that's not quite the right question. I would say it's how have I empowered her?
Okay.
And that's a communication piece, right? So she is on this week. She's been with me 4 years. That Chris has been my executive assistant. She's now my director of operations. She is control and touches everything. Now, the way that I have found to work with her, and this is just her specifically because of her personality, is I have to ask her permission. And this is one of those, hey, I've got a project for you. I'd like to float it by you. I'd like your feedback on what this is going to look like and if it's a project you want to take on. That's the direction that I tend to go with Krissa, and it's because she's a processor. She needs time to look at something. I mean, there's sometimes I will drop a big idea and say, this is the direction that we're going to go. And that's a mistake because we're going to have to go back and have that conversation later. Like she can't guess what's in Jake's head. Like that's just not going to happen. So from a training perspective, I've got to make sure that I am clear on what my objectives are for whatever the thing is going to be. In the exact same way where we're talking about these mini breaks and these mini vacations, Krissa runs my calendar. She operates that calendar. She owns it 100%. And that's always been part of her job description. So when I'm going to make a change in the calendar, I call Krissa. I don't go in there and muck with it, because if I go in there and mess with it, I'm going to get a call back and like, why are you touching stuff? So I literally will call her and go, hey, I need you to block Friday because this is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. So it's clear communication. But I guess the story behind this is you've got to understand, one, how your assistant best communicates, how they communicate to you, and how they best receive communication. And you've got to understand what kind of communicator you are. So, I mean, from a perspective, Chris and I are different personalities, very, very, very different personalities. She is very introverted, very organized, very structured in what she does. I'm not. I am a visionary. I am go fast. I am 30,000 foot view, big ideas that I'll float out there, and I will. I have to be careful. I have to use the context. Here's what we're going to do. So that's what I would tell you. It's not so much about training them. It's about training each other to communicate effectively to do it, and it's about trust. It is about trust, because when you say, I'm going to be gone and you know what you're doing, you're saying you're trusting them. And you can't go back and say, well, I was wrong. If you trust them to do the thing, it's because you've set the expectations correctly and you're marching down that road. Just like Mike and I are talking about, when he's gone, we have an expectation of what's going to get done, what I need to touch. The same is true for me. It's communication creates that trust.
Well, that was a lot in a little bit of time. I hope you guys got a really good idea about what it means to take vacation and really pound this out. So, on behalf of Jay Clendenning, I'm Mike Labersi. You were just live on Total Disruption.